head does not see the need to discipline all his children, then Zambia is going to be left for the dog.
Let the people talk.
Aaron Rama kudibe economy avuta. Batiganzire kwa hivi tarifa hiki ya malaite VI.
Your voice.
And I repeat, my life is the Luchi. If you think that until one day they come to you, Mr. Givenville was beaten by his own cadres. What did they do, all of them? Nothing.
Your views.
And if politicians steal, definitely they steal for the future, so that they can live well. For heaven's sake, we even put the list.
Let the people talk. Every Tuesday and Friday at 9 a.m. on Phoenix FM.
Good morning. Welcome to Friday's edition of Let the People Talk on the 24th of January 2025. I'm your host, Jimwega Chileshe. Now, we can talk about quite a number of issues taking place in the country. One of the notable stories from this week is the presence of the United Nations Human Rights Council Special Rapporteur for freedoms of opinion and expression, Irene Khan, who is in the country. She arrived earlier this week, had a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Mulambo Haimbe, and she's expected in the course of her visit here to interact with various stakeholders just to assess the situation in the country regarding people's freedoms and the upholding of human rights. So much has been said from different members of the public, divergent views on what the state of this is in Zambia. But we'll also be interacting with you and hearing from you, and also hearing from our guests this morning. We are joined by the Secretary General for the Patriotic Front, a faction of the Patriotic Front, but also Secretary General of the Tonse Alliance, Mr. Raphael Nakachinda.
The views expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of the radio station or its presenters. Listener discretion is advised.
Mr. Nakachinda, good morning. Welcome to Let the People Talk.
Chumaka, good morning and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to our listeners. This is the first time I'm featuring on this platform this year. Of course, this morning I am also honored and privileged to have had President Peter Chanda agree to come and be in the studio with me. I would have loved to have not only him, but possibly Honorable Mumbipiri, Honorable Jean Chisenga, Celestine Mkandila, and Honorable Sean Tembo, who are recent victims of human rights abuse at the hand of the police and as well as UPND, cadres, and I think taking advantage of the presence of the UN Human Rights council rapporteur that is in the country, that is present in the country, that we needed to also be able to give evidence, even on Radio Phoenix, of some of the people that have suffered human rights abuses in the recent past. And Honorable Chand, I'm grateful that you are here.
Thank you, and good morning to all the listeners and the viewers, and good morning, Zambia.
Yes, indeed. We are live also on our Facebook page, Phoenix FM Zambia, so you're able to catch the program from there. Quite a number of issues that we can talk about, but we would like to dedicate this show to the listener. We'll open up the phone lines much sooner than usual for you to call in and make your questions or contributions with our guests this morning. Obviously, the news also from this week is the release of Mrs. Mumbipiri, who was under police custody since last year from the time of the Kawambwa by-elections, and this was after the Director of Public Prosecutions did issue a letter stating that there was no evidence to show that she did steal a phone worth 3,800 kwacha and 20,000 kwacha cash. When we talk about this particular news here, of course there should be some good news for you as the Patriotic Front, as the Tonse Alliance, that one of your members has been freed as such. But even just looking at where we're coming from, it's not the first time that she has been in this kind of situation. As a party, as an alliance, what is your reaction to the events from this week?
Well, first of all, I must underscore that of great concern and to us, and which is supposed to be of concern to every Zambian, is that clearly institutions of government have not only been polarized but captured by the executive and weaponized to do their bidding. And when there is anything positive that is done by any of the officers in these institutions, you must know that it is calculated. Calculated to try and advance or push a particular narrative. And it is important that you give us an opportunity to thoroughly be heard and explain ourselves to what we mean to the Zambian people. The DPP, first of all, in many ways is conflicted. He used to be a personal lawyer to the current president, and the conduct of that office from the time Mr. Gilbert Piri was put into that office is that matters you expect that he will professionally analyze and make a particular decision in the interest of justice. He has failed to do that. Okay? There has been situations where members of the ruling party have clearly committed an offense and the police have neglected to arrest and prosecute. And the citizens of the Republic of Zambia have opted to, go the route of private prosecution. And obviously that requires consent from the office of DPP. Even in the face of, obvious and clear evidence of the breach of law, the DPP has elected not to give that consent. There is no one in the Republic of Zambia, especially when it comes to those who are in the ruling, that the DPP has been able to give consent that to prosecute. I went to, to his office after reporting to the police about the malicious damage at the Secretariat at the time that our good friend Mao Sampa was collaborating with the, UPND to try and destabilize the Patriotic Front under the clear supervision and protection of the police, with now fired Deputy IG Miambango, who even facilitated through the night to have fingerprints cleared, when in fact the law provides that there is a 21-day required for this whole process to be undertaken. The DP didn't. Mumbipiri, for example, we all knew from the onset that the case of murder that she was indicted with was fabricated. We all knew because they were, at the time of investigations and everything that had happened when the incident happened, the investigation was pointing to somebody else. Actually, incidences that suggested that a person who was more of a suspect to have occasioned the death of Lawrence Banda was actually from the UPND themselves. That report had been generated after investigation the first time. But because of political statements, and we know it's because at some point Honorable Mumbipiri had issued a statement demanding for the arrest of Ms. Nakachinda at the time that he misconducted themselves in Mongo, it became like a personal arrangement, because in opposition, Ms. Nakachinda had vowed he would deal with people like Mumbipiri, deal with people like Stephen Kampiongo and others. It's in public domain. So when he got into office and they were privileged to be sworn in, those people that were pronounced by the president became the target, and Mumbipiri ended up with a murder charge. What happened? She is incarcerated for over 400 days. She appears in court, and we all knew that the evidence that was adduced in court did not suggest any act on her part.
But the videos to that effect also, where she's heard speaking about that particular matter and seemingly having information about what took place.
And right now, you and me are speaking about matters of people alleged to have committed something. You understand? It doesn't by any means draw us to be implicated that we committed the offense. We may have knowledge of what may have transpired, but it doesn't mean having knowledge or at least getting information about what has happened implicates us to have committed the offense. That is basically the narrative the UPND were trying to advance. So on the day judgment was to be delivered. For the first time in the history of this country, we had the DPP arrest the judgment by way of entering a nolle on the day of judgment, so that the acquittal that was inevitable for Honorable Mumbipiri would not be pronounced. Why? Because then her right would have immediately kicked in for her to be able to sue the state for malicious incarceration, or indeed for unlawful detention for the days that she had stayed in incarceration. And remember, they in UPND, even when they were nollies and so on, they had proceeded to go and award themselves hefty amounts of money as compensation for those who were incarcerated together with President Hakainde Hichilema, including himself, and others like Mwariteta, others like Tayali, who went to court to sue on the basis that a gun was pointed at him. And because of these decisions, their calculation was that if she comes out acquitted, she'll quickly go and sue. So what was the mechanism to use? Now, a DPP cannot be used as a tool to advance the bidding of the ruling party. That is just one example that I can give. Number two, look at the recent arrest. We all know from the fact that when we were in Kaomba, campaigning, there were many allegations that rose as a result of the conduct of the ruling party in Kaomba. The violent activities, the registration of voters and the replacement of voters' cards being undertaken, and people shifting their voting place from other districts to Kawambwa for purposes of building up the numbers and so on. There were many activities that were taking place. And on a particular day, Mike Imposha, who is a minister for
Green Economy,
and also Munari Member of Parliament, was also among those who were canvassing for votes. They and UPND officials and cadres found themselves in a ward that was not designated for them to do any political activity on that particular day. Actually, that ward, PF was one that was supposed to undertake campaigns, because the ECZ always produces a timetable in terms of how political parties will be able to share which place and which area to avoid crashes. UPND, Patriotic Front officials and members spotted these people seemingly collecting, voters' cards and registration cards from, voters, and therefore they went to confront them. And because it was in the presence of the minister, they were basically chased, and they felt that their grievances were not heard. Later on, again, they went back. At least according to what Mike Imposha has been, the story that has been telling. When they could not compromise and agree and ask them to leave, that's how eventually Honorable Mumbipiri heard about it. And as a senior member of Patriotic Front, decided to proceed there. Chimweka, all the things that happened were captured in videos. But to the surprise of everybody, and I think to the shock of Zambians, even when everybody saw what transpired, that it was just basically UPND being confronted that stopped these activities and what you're doing, Mumbipiri ended up being, reported by UPND, and the police, even without investigating, just because it is a UPND official and the minister was complained, they proceeded to arrest not only Madam Mumbipiri, but they arrested Honorable Jean Chisenga, Celestine Mkandila, and even the comrade that have come with here, Peter Chanda, and they proceeded to charge them with aggravated robbery. And it was calculated only for purposes of making sure that Madam Mumbipiri gets a non-bailable offense and be detained just like she was detained.
We'll bring in Mr. Peter Chanda on this, but I just want to find out from you also. But with this, with the letter that we saw from the DPP, don't you think that also speaks into his professionalism? And this is not the first time we've seen something like this happen from the DPP, where he's written back to the Zambia police to investigate further some of these matters. Don't you think that this speaks more towards the conduct of the Zambia police and less of the Director of Public Prosecutions?
You remember I used the word calculated moves. Okay. I don't think that the DPP's letter should then speak to his professionalism. it's a calculated move because there was already a report that was coming from the human rights, UN human rights, report that had come expressing concern over these, abuses, and also called out these officers. Then there was already a report that the rapporteur is coming. It was the indication that the rapporteur is coming that now got the government panicking, because Mumbipiri, there was no justification to have her in detention. So that later comes, and I need to also just to re-emphasize what I'm talking about. Honorable Mumbipiri was arrested and detained on the 9th of January. 2 days later, because immediately we had the lawyers on the ground, the docket was sent to Lusaka for purposes of getting instruction from the office of DPP in view of the charge that she was charged. 3-4 days later, that letter that you're referring to, came from the office of DPP to the command in Ruapula that there is no evidence. And when it comes to evidence, they were alleging that there were tasers and other weapons that were used against whoever that whose gadgets and money was stolen from. There was no evidence whatsoever, not even a medical report and all these things. And there was just an allegation that somebody's money and gadgets had been, no witness whatsoever. Okay. The DPP writes that letter. The commission in Ruapula, Yui and his people, decides to sit on that letter. Honorable Mumbipiri was in detention for another 7 to 8 days on the basis that the police in Ruapula were not prepared to release her. Why? Because obviously there must have been political instructions given, even over the charge that she was to be, given. And the office of the DPP shocked everybody because they have always corroborated that when such a thing happens, the DPP's office will just cooperate. This time around, it's like it was a shock that the DPP's office went contrary to what the scheme was. It took another 8 days of us, advocating, going on TV, going on social media, demanding that this is the position that we know through our lawyers, that the DPP has refused to prosecute because there is no evidence. And she was only released 2 days ago. What does it say to you? It means that the systems are not working independent. They are actually working based on the influence or instructions that are coming from politicians. Who wanted the Mumbipiri to be in that state? It is politicians. Who went to report to the police about Mumbipiri to be detained? It is politicians. From who? UPND. I was in court yesterday and I was shocked to have somebody stand in a witness box to talk about the fact that a UPND youth chairman of Northwestern Province went to report to the police. And according to that person, of course, I don't want to discuss many details because the matter is still in court. But according to the testimony that he gave on the whatever, is that the atmosphere at the police is what compelled him to arrest me, because this youth chairman came with 50 other people chanting at the police. The question is that if they came to chant whatever slogans, is there not a law that criminalize the conduct of people if they are disorderly at the police? There is, because we have had 2-3 youths, for example, come to support Honorable Nakachinda at the Kawata police when I'm detained and over, and days have been passing. 3 youths were arrested and charged with the misconduct at the police for just demanding that we want to see Honorable Nakachinda. If 50 UPND cadres can go to the police and stampede the police in such a way that the operations are disrupted, is that not an offense? But they would go scot-free. But Nakachinda, according to him, because the atmosphere was hostile by the behavior of UPND cadres, he must be arrested. No evidence of me having committed an offense. So those are the things that we're highlighting. So Honorable Mumbipiri's release should not be celebrated on the basis that the system has done the correct thing. They have just done this because of fear of being exposed, because the UPND run their abuses of human rights and freedoms of people alongside a propaganda machinery to send a narrative both home and abroad that now democracy has come. Now they're fighting against corruption. The president's response to the presence of the rapporteur in this country is to try and manipulate and suggest that what is happening if those people are being arrested is actually a fight against corruption. What corrupt act have I ever committed myself, apart from the fact that I have over 8 cases running in our courts today for speaking out against the issues of UPND, and have been slapped with seditious practices, hate speech, defamation of the president, and even espionage. Those are the things that are happening in this country.
Let's engage Mr. Peter Chanda as somebody who was in the thick and thin of things during the by-election campaigns. And we know that your party, as a part of the Tonse Alliance, the No Congress Party, has been quite active in terms of fielding in candidates and so on. What has been your experience during this process?
Well, first and foremost, I want to state that thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to speak to the Zambian people on this forum in the first month of the year. I want to state that UPND's maneuvers and the Mingalato are slowly coming to an end. The sky is the limit as to what God can take. God is hearing the cries of his people. In Kawambwa, UPND knew that they are going to lose the election. The ground was not with them. In fact, they were not even campaigning on the ground. All they were doing is give people money, give people this, give people that, give people that. Including little children could not chant their slogan. When they saw that Tonse Alliance with the Special Purpose Vehicle, NCP, has gained momentum on the ground, they planned activities to harm and threaten the citizens. On a fateful day, one young man reported to us that at a lodge where I'm sleeping, please shift me from there, because next to my room there's a room where the UPND cadres have kept the weapons, pangas, knives, and other things, and they are calling that room as an emergency room at a lodge. And that is the lodge that belonged to the younger brother to the Chief Mukanda of Kawambwa district. Myself, Celestine Mukandila, and Jean Chisenga decided to call the chief, and we went to report to the chief, because it is just about 200 meters from where the lodge is and where the palace is. So we decided, first, let's see the chief. We went to see the chief. The chief gave us audience, heard the what? He immediately called the officer in charge, Kawambwa. And he called the officers from the office of the president in Kawambwa. Called them and summoned them to his palace. There is this news, and the chief said, what you have told me, I've heard about it, and you have now confirmed. You are good citizens. I will have to call. He called the owner of the lodge, who is his younger brother. The owner of the lodge came and gave the chief, met them, and talked to them, whilst we waited outside. After that, I don't know which officer was sent by the officer in charge, but we were accompanied by those. Then they went now to say, okay, the owner of the lodge plus his chief retainer will lead, together with the officer from the office of the president and a police officer who came, I think, in plain clothes, will lead the team to go and conduct. And we sat outside whilst they conducted the search in those 2 rooms that the young man clearly stated. After that, we came out to say, okay, the other room was locked. The one which had the weapons was locked. So we decided to say, as we were coming out, then the receptionist said, oh, mwine wa muruja murumu abwera. That's how they returned. Me, I remained outside. Jinsenga, we remained outside. They returned together with the chief retainer in his uniform. They went together with the owner of the lodge. We hear that there are things here. The man refused. A UPND card. So refused. Say, you cannot enter my room. You need to give me a search warrant. The owner of the lodge said, this is my lodge, and I hear that you've kept things that are offensive. He argued. From there, we decided. He started now calling other cadres. We decided to withdraw. It's okay, since they are saying they don't have. But I want to state this. I was a victim of the attack from the same offensive weapon. You can see Chimweka. This is a cat. I want you to look at this, and I want the people to look at this. This was a cat from the UPND thugs that Mwinde brought, who almost killed me and almost bent my car in Lushiba Ward. On the polling day, UPND decided now to unleash those thugs who came from Lusaka, and we identified them. And these people had weapon. This was a knife which cut me here and there.
Did you report them?
When I went to report, now these are the human rights abuses that you need, the Zambian people and the special rapporteur from the UN, if you are listening to this message. These are the abuses that the UPND are doing, and I'm a victim of that. I could have been killed. Over 50 thugs charged on us as we are doing the routine process of checking on our polling agents. When we reached in Rushiba Ward, we just saw 3 vehicles coming. There was a Hilux, a Ford Ranger, and a Land Cruiser 4x4. They arrived, and these cadres came out. They started beating Nams, Sirumesi. That young lady was just standing there doing a TikTok video to say, oh, we are here, everything is going on well. And others, as she was filming that, the cadres charged on and started beating up the young lady, stole her phone. From there, I came towards my car, entered into my car. Immediately I entered into the car, they came charged. Somebody entered from this side and this side. The other one had the knife. He almost hit me here. They wanted the phone. They grabbed my phone. Today, Trevor Mwinde's cadres, they are still holding on to my phone, a Samsung 15A. I went to the police. I had to rush now with the injuries and the blood. As we were rushing now, Mkandilazi was taking me to my car remained trapped with the cadres wanting to burn it. We met the Zambia police because the officers at the polling station had called for enforcement. When we met the police, they even captured this and said, please quickly rush to go and report. What happened? Me who was reporting the aggravated robbery that happened, where I was slashed with the same weapons that the UPND were saying we do not have. The same room where they said they kept weapons. But today, I became a victim. Sean Tembo was just a victim a few minutes because they had finished with Sean Tembo. After they finished with Sean Tembo, they came to descend on me. Now, the Zambian people should be alerted that UPND, from the time they were in opposition and doing the Malpatiza formula, if I tell you today, I can confirm to the world that PF was not violent. UPND were the violent one. And that violence is proved now today. I'm a victim of that. I could have been dead by today. After that, with my injured arm, left arm, as I was reporting, the police started cooking up a story for me, a charge. They gave me medicals to go to the hospital. When I returned back, as I finished giving them the report to say UPND, I reported the campaign manager because I didn't know until later. That's when I was told by my driver to say actually Trevor Mwinde was in a Hilux. I even picked the police and went and showed them to say the police even tried to chase them. They go discuss with them and they tried to chase them. Now, injustice in this country is that if you belong to the opposition, you have no rights. And those rights, I've seen them. So what the DPP has said, I want to repeat what I said previous day in another interview. The DPP has just come to his senses. And he knows that at the moment, Tonse Alliance means business. Come 2026, it will be the Tonse Alliance NCP government. And this is for sure. So I want to tell you, as I reported, then a charge was cooked up for me. The idea, it was on the polling day. We, myself, Jeannie Chisenga, and Celestine Mukandira, were supposed to be in the polling station to defend our votes. Because we clearly won that election. But what did they do? They detained us on that particular. I was detained and only released at 21 hours.
Of course, there's some names you've mentioned, and for the sake of balance, we'd also have to get their version of events and to hear that side of the story. But overall, before we open the phone lines, and I know this will probably come up quite a lot in the phone calls we're going to get. I know this, as the new Congress party, you endorsed, the candidature of President Edgar Lungu in the 2021 general elections. Obviously, Mr. Nakachinda, having worked with the Patriotic Front as well. One thing that's going to come up is, in as much as you talk about human rights abuses, abrogation, the conduct of the police, and so on, the argument is that where we're coming from, people have seen this happen. And what also come up is, you talk about you almost dying and so on. People talk about people who've actually died in situations that really thought could have been avoided. And this is one thing that's going to come up. So as the Patriotic Front, even as you talk about the human rights violations that you claim you're experiencing and you say you're experiencing now, many would argue that it's similar to what happened before. Others argue that it was even worse before.
Yeah, I think that argument is advanced to try and feed into the UPND narrative. Okay, the UPND, first of all, in opposition, they weaponize the Zambian people and the international community that, for example, Patriotic Front was violent when in fact they were the ones instigating violence. You remember that President Lungu was bold enough to also put up a commission of inquiry to deal with issues of political violence as well as regional and tribal politics that were setting into the country at a dangerous rate. And the report showed that when it came to political violence, I think the most prevalent areas, areas where the activities were prevalent, mostly were in the region where our friends were strong politically, which is basically what we may call the Zambezi region. Whenever there was a by-election or an election in Southern Province, it tended to be bloody. Whenever there was a by-election, for example, in Western or Northwestern Province, it tended to be very, very bloody. And that's how come you had reports of even deaths, for example, in Kauma. Look at the Sesheke by-election that brought Kangombe in. Look at some of the activities that are happening in Southern Province. But there would be by-elections in areas where PF, quote unquote, was also viewed to be stronger. But the elections would go smoothly without really serious instances of violence. It showed that the aggression on the other side was a little bit too beyond the expected in terms of politics. But our friends are now in government. When you talk of people who, died, they refer to prominent maybe 2-3 people. But how many people, for example, died on the part of Patriotic Front for political reasons? Even a senior member, a member of Central Committee, Mr. Kungo, was killed in broad daylight. And Chihili. And Mr. Chihili, who was also a senior member of Patriotic Front, was also killed on the polling day by UPND cadres. Okay? It's just that, as it were, because of the way UPND in government is operating, the atrocities of UPND are never pronounced, are never condemned. But you find that there's always this narrative of suggesting that, only UPND, 3 or 4 people, quote unquote, that are associated with UPND may have, been victims in these altercations. And some of the reports suggest that they died at the hand of the police, because maybe the police in trying to quell the altercations and the violence activities of UPND at the time, maybe discharged live bullets and ended up having victims of that nature. But you will not have a report of Patriotic Front cadres or members beating up UPND people and kill them. You don't have that report. But you have UPND in Kanyama, in Chivoria, where 3 youths during the elections were killed. And that matter has gone nowhere because it was UPND that were involved. You understand what I'm saying? So when we are talking of these things, we must be able to qualify them. Yes. Now, over and above that, our stance as Tonse Alliance and our stance as Patriotic Front is that even if, for example, you try to beat that drum, the Zambian people, all the atrocities of Patriotic Front put together, made a judgment in 2021 by having us voted out of office. And when they were voting out of office, they were not voting out of office people who are not Zambians. They were voting out of office fellow Zambians who they felt, these atrocities we cannot tolerate, and therefore come out of government. We can't then, having condemned these acts by way of voting PF out, begin to justify the conduct of UPND, and in this case, one which is clearly proving to even be worse. That because it happened under previous governments, under PF, under MMD, and under UNIP, therefore these people are justified to have that happen. That argument is not correct. It is wrong. Why do we change government? Why are we going to change government in 2021? We're going to change government in 2021 to have another leader who's going to be as tribal as UPND, who's going to be as brutal as UPND. And when you ask them a question, they say, no, because UPND is to be tribal, therefore we're tribal. No, we are condemning the tribalism in UPND on the basis that we aspire to have a leadership that will come in that will be nationalistic in approach and get all Zambians to participate in the affairs of this country, and nobody feels they are marginalized or indeed maltreated in whatever form. That's the reason why we condemn such virtue. Why are we talking about human rights? We're talking about human rights abuses today because we aspire to have a country that embraces democratic tenets in such a way that the rights of to present your will through the vote is never violated or sabotaged or manipulated by having an ECZ that does not guarantee transparency, does not guarantee that the will of the people is what is reflected in the ballot. So Chimweka, today that narrative does not hold. What we're supposed to do is to start comparing the performance of UPND in relation to their promises, in relation to what they condemned, in relation to what they say they will never do when they get into government. Misaka Indechirema did not promise the Zambian people that is going to come into government and begin to be vindictive and begin to be pursuing people because as a way of settling scores. He promised Zambians when he was in opposition that he's going to make sure that the institutions of government, the ACC, DEC, the police will conduct themselves professionally and not be used as political tools to be able to advance the agenda of those who are in government. But what is happening is the opposite. This man that has been fired, the Deputy IG, Muyambang, at a level of Deputy IG, he reduced himself to even supervise the activities of an illegal activity at Mulungushi to have the main opposition political party fractured, even provided over 200 officers to protect one individual to install himself as a leader. And then he went and sat throughout the night to try and legitimatize an illegal process. This is a person who, a few months ago, I think you got the story, had gone to borrow a tractor from an innocent Zambian by the name of Marembeka, who's running a company to do with farming inputs and farming machinery and so on. And instead of paying him, the story goes that he decided to use his office and even got the guy he borrowed a tractor from incarcerated You understand? He tried to go to human rights. He tried to write to different institutions. Because the gentleman was on office, the man actually was being victimized by institutions where he went to report, SCC, human rights, and all these institutions. They never responded because the person who was involved was the deputy IG.
But don't you think even just the dismissal of the deputy IG speaks a lot into the political will that the president has to ensure that these officials serving in these positions need to conduct themselves in the right manner?
This man should have been fired a long time ago. And the reason he has been fired today, we are aware, is because of other consideration. There is also allegations of the fact that because President Lungu was allowed to travel, some of these officers, their heads will roll because the president did not think that any of them would allow President Lungu to travel for his medicals. You understand? So an underlining reason for which some of these people will be fired. And one of them victim is this one. But I can assure you, yes,
So are you trying to suggest that the same man that you feel was supervising what you're calling an illegal convention again was siding with former President Edgar Lungu?
Listen, all these were involved in illegal things and so on. And that's how come we're advising those who are in government. The moment you succumb to being used by UPND, it will take you just miscalculating once and you are gone. And what you'll be faced with now the atrocities you would have committed at the time that you were in office. So Muyambango miscalculated possibly politically once and is gone. And they will use those same atrocities they were covering him with at the time that they enjoyed him, playing that role. They will cover him. I mean, now they will use that to deal with him now that he is alone. That is what will happen to each one of those who are succumbing. You are supposed to conduct yourself professionally. You end up doing things that are wrong. Yui is one of those people that in Kawambwa, for example, President Sean Tembo, having been, violently, been a victim of assault from the Mwinde team, he goes to the police to go and report. He finds the commissioner of Luapula, Mr. Yui, at the police station. Do you know the first words that he said to him? You talk ill of my president. If I had the way, I would have actually just let you be beaten by UPND cadres. Then he goes in and he tells him, you don't even deserve to sit on the chair, sit down. A person who has come to complain and so on, but those are incidences that were reported even to the police. And then what happens? UPND cadres came to attack Sean Tembo at the police station. And these are people who are aspiring. I can tell you that Muyambango has gone. Among the people that are aspiring to take over that position, because what I know is that Misaka Inde Ichrema, he has fired one who was doing those atrocities like Muyambango, but he's going to bring a Wesa deputy IG for purpose of preparing for 2026, and among them may be Yui that will occupy that office. Then hell will break loose in this country, because the brutality you saw Yui was undertaking on behalf of Misaka Inde to even go and break the gate of the former president's residence. I'm sure you remember those things. Those are the incidences you expect to start happening if that guy takes office, or another Wesa officer that they have pepped up to advance a political agenda of UPND. The appointments of Misaka in the Ichrema nowadays are questionable, including the recent appointment at SCC. We are aware of the fact that some of the candidates, including our good judge who retired recently, there were some allegations that have not been exhaustively dealt with at SCC. But Misaka Indechirema found it prudent to appoint him as the chair for the commission. So those are some of the grey areas we're saying. Does this man mean well? We have Madam Mangala Zarome is appointed as chair for Electoral Commission of Zambia, when she's a full-fledged member and cadre of UPND. We have Donald Chipenzi, who is a member of UPND, and even attempted to participate in Chirundo, is now a commissioner under ECZ. What kind of ECZ are you going to have?
Even Director General NCC.
Are you sure that there is going to be objectivity in that regard? That's how come these institutions are not operating professionally. Because most of them came from the cloth of UPND to be appointed. Those who are supporting UPND, you can tell that they have been either manipulated or got into some kind of a political. objectivity on the part of, for example, you have a former vice president disgrace himself like never Sumba in the manner that he's advancing to try and defend that new human rights abuses. It's really shameful that in today's time and age and generation, we will not have the courage to objectively advise even our friends. It doesn't have to take Nakachinda in opposition to point out these things. Even those who are on the political table of the UPND should have the courage to say, because ultimately all of us must aspire to have a better country, whether you are in opposition or you are in government. That should be the attitude.
We'll take a break for the community news at 10, but after that, we dedicate the final hour of Let the People Talk to you, the listener, to call in and weigh in with your contributions or questions for our guests this morning. We're joined by Mr. Raphael Nakachinda, the Tonse Alliance Secretary General, and also President of the New Congress Party, which is a member of the Tonse Alliance. We have the President, Mr. Peter Chanda, in studio. So that's coming up right after the community news at 10.
The Woolworths Quality Sale is now on. Get up to 50% off selected fashion, beauty and homeware. Don't miss out. Head to your nearest Woolworths today while stocks last. T's and C's apply. Woolworths, the difference.
The Zambezi River. It's more than just a river. It's life. It feeds communities, powers homes, and sustains wildlife. Today, this lifeline is under threat. Here at Stanbic Bank, alongside our partners, have planted over 20,000 indigenous trees to date, with thousands more being planted and a further 30,000 seedlings growing in a community nursery. The future looks greener. The efforts haven't stopped at planting trees. This year alone, 130 beehives were donated to the local communities, creating sustainable alternative livelihoods while protecting nature. Join us in making a difference. Visit securezambezi.org to learn how you can help secure the Zambezi. Together for nature, together for life.
This time check is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
It's 9:59 on Phoenix FM. Up next, the community news with Lusubilo Gondwe.
The community news is brought to you with the compliments of National Milling Corporation. National Milling Corporation, Zambia's pride nationwide.
Kaputa Council approves 250 applications for CDF bursaries. Kasempa examination results worry government. To present the community news, I'm Lusubilo Gondwe. Kaputa Town Council has approved 250 applications for bursaries under the 2025 Constituency Development Fund CDF Skills Development Bursaries Program. Prospective students have applied in various fields, including driving, power electrical, and carpentry, among others. Kaputa Town Council Assistant Public Relations Officer Stella Shonga told Zanis that the local authority will spend over 4.1 million kwacha to sponsor students under the program. Ms. Shonga says students that are sponsored under the fund will be enrolled in various skills and trades training centers in different parts of the country. She adds that 75 students from the September 2024 intake have been deferred to this year, adding that the local authority will spend over 1.1 million kwacha on them. Ms. Shonga further disclosed that 58 pupils will be sponsored under the boarding secondary school bursary at a cost of 174,000 kwacha. She adds that the local authority will also sponsor 406 returning pupils under the boarding secondary school bursary at a cost of over 1.2 million kwacha. Kasempa District Administration has employed educationalists in the district to emulate best practices from other successful districts to improve the performance of pupils in the district. The District Administrative Officer Francis Makanga expressed concern at the performance of pupils in last year's examinations. He reminded school administrators that the grants which they receive are meant for enhancing academic performance of the pupils. Mr. Makanga further called for more commitment and concentration from school administrators and teachers in the district. To end the community news, another look at the headlines. Kaputa Council approves 250 applications for CDF bursaries, and Kasempa examination results worry government. Keep listening to Let the People Talk.
The community news was brought to you with the compliments of National Milling Corporation. National Milling Corporation, Zambia's pride nationwide.
Today I just want nice food. So what are we having for dinner?
Mama's Pride macaroni.
I want Mama's spaghetti.
Okay guys, you have your lunch pack with Mama's Pride spaghetti. And for dinner, we're gonna have Mama's Pride macaroni.
Mama cooks it al dente.
There you go. National Milling Corporation. Zambia's pride nationwide.
At Zanaco, we believe that part of life's formula is saving. That is why we are improving your village banking experience with our Village Banking Plus account. Enjoy attractive interest rates at the end of your cycle, free banking, and more. Let us be part of the growth of your village banking. Open a Zanaco Village Banking Plus account today. Call 5000 for more information. Zanaco, growing communities through savings.
Stuck in traffic on a bus or taxi?
Yeah.
With DSTV Stream, you can say goodbye to boredom and hello to instant entertainment.
Wow.
That's right. You can stream DSTV anywhere. And the best part, DSTV Stream is already included in your subscription. To enjoy the ultimate convenience, simply download the app from your app store. Sign in with your DSTV account, then sit back and enjoy your favorites. From thrilling sports to captivating series, all on your device, anytime, anywhere you are.
Sweet!
It's showtime, anytime, with DSTV Stream. Terms and conditions apply.
Ba driver, mwamvela bushe. Kuli ma discount ku Quick Fit imwe.
Ati?
Nati Quick Fit ipasa ma discount ikan kon volume imwe.
Get 50% off shocks and brake pads. Need more? QuickFit has got you. Makale Mwangufi.
Enjoy free tie rod ends on your next wheel alignment. Did you hear that? Free tie rod ends. QuickFit, yakuleka fyezona.
Spend 2,000 kwacha or more and get free steering and suspension parts. Wait, there's more. Spend another 2 pin on an oil change and get a free fuel filter plus Nafimbi.
Don't miss out. Call 0765192800.
Phoenix FM. Channel 915 on DSTV.
Welcome back to Let the People Talk, the Friday edition. Our guest this morning, from the Tonse Alliance, we do have the Secretary General, Mr. Raphael Nakachinda. We also have President of one of the parties, the New Congress Party, with Mr. Peter Chanda joining us in studio. It's 5 minutes past 10 in the morning, and we'd love to interact with you, to take in your phone calls, and also to receive your messages via the Phoenix FM WhatsApp line, 0978-895-895. Also from our Facebook page, Phoenix FM Zambia. Let's get to the phone calls. Good morning.
Good Phoenix. Wakabanje.
Buda wakabanje.
Mukamba na wakeni kuchilanga.
Vandani?
Wakeni.
Wakeni.
Yeah, kuchilanga.
Yes, wakeni.
Awatuangalia wali mu studio mwanu mo. Ani watamba voice tavu. Sama ningi. Awantu wa PF wao. But tuwalero, President Akainde Chilema, afu zamda 100%. Oro pisi tina oro gaspeto tabu kudayo sakuli ofia. But awantu wa tuzo ni mda. Awatu fuhi pawabantu, lezo timenya. So awa yavelele, 10.6 ya Akainde Chilema. Tamba from.
Skoma Waken, 0978-895-895-226841. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Fine. Douglas calling you from Mondor.
Yes, Douglas.
Yes, my contribution is good morning, Chanda Nakachinda.
Good morning, Mr.
Yes, here mleva pama human rights abuse. Same year PF. I remember the PF mali campaign of kit. Edgar Lungu bareba ati ndabapita atetse ekinkesa mu ikata nomba nironshi bareba onfya instead of what they investigate erobeka but mwarandira ati nkesa mu ikata ngana pita. And then you're saying that PF bareba onfya bakapokola. You were in government bushe ifi because ineshaba from government tyakubonke bakapokola sira chitika then begin ba PF ba UPND ro bali mu opposition baliranda tu ba PF bara rigging ama elections na imwe muliranda tu ba PF ba UPND bara rigging ama elections nomba imomo ali bapo mu government bushe rigging eko yaba. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. We'll take one more call before we get responses from our guests. Hello?
Hello, Radio Phoenix.
Yes, this is Phoenix FM. Who's on the line?
My name is Elijah Ngwale, senior band citizen. I'm just tuned in. We have our guests. Yeah, I've met both of them friends. And my contribution is this. I deplore the manner in which opposition parties are doing things in Zambia. For example, Trans Alliance, no de facto, no de jure president. Only de facto presidents, MMD, whatever parties, and these are the parties they expect to go for elections. Up to now we have no de jure, you have no de facto presidents, only de jure presidents. Put your heads together and rebrand, redesign, so that you can do something. As the president, you are just engaged, in the political rhetoric, economic rhetoric, media, onomatopoeia media, utopia media, here there. It doesn't, up to now, Trans has no de jure president, only de facto. PS not de jure president, only de facto. Completely disorganized. Provoke, frustrate, and so on and so forth. You are doing a disservice to people. You, the opposition. In fact, you are not even Trans, you are Morse. You are not even Trans. So, my humble contribution is this. You must reorganize, you must rebrand, you must redesign yourself. De facto president, not the jure president. No. That's not the case. So let me conclude here. Don't say de facto president. MMP de facto president. PF de facto president. No organization. Please redesign, rebrand yourself to one strong opposition.
All right.
Utopia or euphoria.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ngwale. Thank you so much. Let's get your responses to the calls we received so far. We'll start with Ken, who says, despite everything, for him it's President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND government for him in 2026.
For our colleagues who are UPND members, of course, even when it doesn't make sense, they'll pronounce themselves as they have performed, and we don't know what parameters they are using